Let me paint you a picture. There's a guy, perfectly dressed, confident handshake, great sense of humor. He remembers your name, asks about your family, laughs at the right moments. Every single person in the room likes him within 10 minutes of meeting him. And somewhere across town, that same night, he's standing in front of his bathroom mirror, practicing, rehearsing facial expressions he watched other people make earlier that day. Grief, surprise, sympathy, running through them one by one like an actor preparing for a role he's been playing his entire life. That man is not broken on the outside. He doesn't look dangerous. He doesn't act strange. He fits in perfectly, because fitting in is the one skill he has spent decades perfecting. Here's what most people get wrong about psychopaths. They imagine someone cold, robotic, visibly off, someone you would immediately feel uncomfortable around. But that image, that Hollywood version, is almost never the reality. The real ones are smooth, warm on the surface, socially fluent in ways that feel almost magnetic. And that's exactly what makes them so difficult to identify. You have already crossed paths with someone like this. Maybe it was a co-worker who always seemed just slightly too composed during crisis. Maybe it was a date who made you feel incredibly special, and then left you feeling strangely empty afterward. Maybe it was someone you genuinely liked. And that's the part that still bothers you. The problem was never your intelligence. The problem is that we were never taught what to actually look for. So let's fix that right now. To understand what a psychopath is, you first have to understand where one comes from, because this is not simply a choice. It is not a lifestyle. It is not even purely an upbringing. The foundation is biological, and it starts long before that person ever walks into your life. Think of it this way. Genetics loads a gun. Life experience pulls the trigger. Some people are born with a specific cluster of genetic markers that create neurological conditions favorable to psychopathic development. These are not exotic or rare mutations. They are present in a measurable percentage of the population. But having those genes does not automatically make someone a psychopath. What determines whether those genes actually switch on what scientists call gene expression is largely environmental stress. And stress here does not just mean emotional pressure or childhood trauma. Physical stress matters enormously. A serious illness during infancy, an immune system under attack at a critical developmental window. These biological stressors can directly influence how the brain develops in its earliest stages, specifically in regions responsible for empathy, emotional processing, and social bonding. Research has shown something particularly striking in this area. Babies born in winter months statistically show a slightly higher likelihood of certain neurological vulnerabilities. Not because winter itself causes anything, but because the mother may have been dealing with illness during pregnancy, and the newborn faces a higher chance of early physical stress in those first critical weeks of life. This is not a guarantee. It is not a verdict. A winter birthday does not make anyone dangerous, but it illustrates a powerful point, that the architecture of a psychopathic mind is often constructed invisibly, quietly, before anyone even knows to look. And once those genes express themselves, the brain that develops is genuinely different, not broken, not evil, structurally, functionally different, particularly in its capacity, or more accurately, its incapacity for empathy. A sociopath does not care about your feelings. A psychopath does not care about your existence. That distinction sounds small. It is not. Here is something almost nobody talks about. And once you know it, you will never look at a face the same way again. Your face is a record. Every emotion you have genuinely felt over the course of your life leaves a physical mark. The muscles you activate most frequently, the ones that fire every time you laugh, worry, grieve, or feel deep curiosity, those muscles slowly, gradually etch lines into the skin above them. By the time most people reach their mid to late teens, the foundation of this map is already forming. By middle age, a person's emotional history is literally written on their face. Think about someone you know who has spent their life genuinely happy and socially engaged. You will see fine lines extending from the outer corners of their eyes, the result of thousands of authentic smiles over decades. Think about someone who has carried a lot of internal sadness or tension. You will often notice vertical lines forming between the eyebrows from years of that specific muscle contracting. People who constantly seek social connection and approval, people who are highly attuned to how others perceive them, tend to develop visible forehead lines because that specific muscle group activates every time you raise your eyebrows in social engagement, in interest, in empathy. Now here is where it gets important. A true psychopath, someone who has spent their entire life without genuine emotional engagement, will often have a face that looks unusually smooth, unnaturally still, not because of cosmetic procedures, because the muscles that create those lines were simply never consistently activated. There was no lifetime of authentic emotion to etch anything in beyond the structural markers. Watch for mirroring. When you share something emotional with another person, excitement, sadness, concern, a neurologically typical person will unconsciously mirror a version of that emotion on their own face within milliseconds. It is completely involuntary. It happens before conscious thought. Psychopaths do not do this naturally. What you will see instead is either a slight delay, a face that stays neutral just a beat too long, or an overcorrection, a smile that appears at the wrong moment, an expression that looks technically correct but emotionally mistimed, like someone who learned the vocabulary of a language but still thinks in a different one. These are not foolproof identifiers on their own, but they are signals, and signals compound. This is the section most people need the most, because it explains something confusing that many people have experienced but never been able to name. You meet someone, the conversation is electric. They are charming, intensely focused on you, seemingly deeply interested in everything you say. You walk away feeling genuinely good, almost elevated, and then an hour later, something shifts. You cannot explain it. The good feeling evaporates, and strangely, you find yourself wanting to go back, to recreate that feeling, to get another hit of whatever that interaction was. What just happened to you is not coincidence. It is a pattern, and it is one of the most reliable internal signals that something was not right about that interaction. Here is why it happens. Certain personalities, particularly those operating without genuine empathy, learn very early in life that the fastest way to influence people is through engineered emotional intensity. They create situations, conversations, and moments that trigger dopamine responses in the people around them. It feels real. It feels meaningful. It feels like genuine connection. But it is not. It is a technique. And the moment the interaction ends, the mechanism stops. The dopamine drops. And you are left with a strange hollowness that you instinctively want to fill. By returning to the source, compare this to a genuinely warm, grounded conversation with someone who is honest and emotionally present. After that interaction, you feel calm, steady. The good feeling does not vanish. It lingers. It settles into you. That difference, the crash after the high versus the quiet warmth that stays, is your oldest, most primitive defense system trying to communicate with you. The problem is that most people override it because the high felt so good in the moment. Do not override it. There is a reason that psychopathic behavior clusters in high-density environments, and it goes deeper than just larger population numbers creating larger odds. Cities create a specific social condition that works enormously in favor of a predatory personality. That condition is anonymity. In a traditional community, a small town, a tight-knit neighborhood, a close social group, reputation is everything. Your behavior has consequences that follow you. If you treat someone badly, the entire network knows. Your ability to operate depends on maintaining trust over time. That system is a natural check on predatory behavior. In a large city, that system collapses. You are surrounded by millions of strangers you will never see again. There is no reputation loop, no social consequence, no village memory. And when reputation stops mattering, empathy becomes optional. You have seen this in the phenomenon known as the bystander effect. In dense urban environments, when someone is visibly in distress, injured, in danger, calling for help, the presence of more people around them actually decreases the likelihood of anyone stepping in. Everyone assumes someone else will act, so nobody does. Taken out of context, that behavior, watching someone suffer without intervening, treating their pain as irrelevant to your own experience, is textbook psychopathic response. But in a city, it becomes normalized, commonplace, even invisible. Cities do not just attract personalities already wired this way. They actively condition ordinary people to operate with reduced empathy. They shrink the emotional radius within which we feel responsible for others. They train the brain to process millions of strangers as background noise rather than human beings. The architecture of modern urban life is quietly reshaping the emotional landscape of the people living in it. So what do you actually do when you suspect you are dealing with one of these personalities? There are two principles. Just two. But if you apply them consistently, they change everything. The first is absolute calm. In any interaction with a psychopathic or sociopathic personality, your single most important asset is your composure. These personalities feed on emotional reaction. Shock, fear, confusion, flattery, anger. All of it is data they collect and use. Every visible reaction you give them is a tool they can leverage the moment you commit to being the calmest person in the room. Not cold, not aggressive, simply calm. You remove their primary advantage. You become unreadable. And an unreadable person is an uninteresting target. The second is non-reactivity. Even when they say something designed to provoke, even when the comment is shocking, offensive, or flattering beyond what feels normal, your face stays neutral. Your voice stays even. Your posture stays relaxed. Because the person reacting least in any interaction holds the most power. Always drop the hierarchy thinking entirely. Stop asking yourself whether you are above or below this person in some invisible social ranking. That question is a trap, and it is one they set deliberately. Your only internal question should be, am I calm? Am I non-reactive? Am I in control of myself? Those are the only variables you actually own. When a predatory personality realizes their usual techniques are producing no reaction from you, the psychological calculus changes. You're no longer a productive fishing spot. They will move on. Here's the truth that most people are not prepared to hear. Psychopaths are not rare. They are not confined to prison cells or crime documentaries. They are in boardrooms, in relationships, in social circles, in families. Most of them have never committed a crime. Many of them are considered successful, even admirable by the people around them. And almost none of them chose to be what they are. The brain they have is the brain they were given. The emotional absence is not a moral failing. It is a neurological reality. Understanding that does not make them safe to be around, but it does make them understandable. And understanding is always your first line of defense. Your empathy, the thing they do not have, is not a weakness. It is your most sophisticated detection system. That quiet, unshakable feeling that something is slightly off about a person, that is not paranoia. That is hundreds of thousands of years of human survival intelligence trying to protect you. Listen to it. Stay calm. Stay grounded. And trust the part of you that already knows.